I was going to make a video talking about how bad the upcoming UFC pay-per-views are, but I wasn't angry enough at the topic to deliver the video the way it needed to be delivered. However, the UFC have come to help, and they've made some announcements over the past 24 hours that have really pushed me over the edge when it comes to how they're putting these cards together. It is unexplainable, but I'm going to try and do my best job to explain it within today's video. So please sit tight. What you're looking at right now is the UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi card. Now, let me say it one more time. I don't think you guys are listening to the things that you need to be listening to here. This is UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. This isn't UFC 400, the Abu Dhabi special. This isn't anything along those lines. Fair enough. Oh, sorry. It's UFC on ABC. It's UFC on ABC. Okay, fair enough. But we're in Abu Dhabi for a fight night card. Very important to distinguish that. This is not a pay-per-view. And look at this glorious creation. Look at the glorious creation. Robert Whittaker, Reina Dorida, Movsar Evloev, Aaron Pico. We'll get to it. I hate it. We'll get to it, though. Peter Yan versus Marcus McGhee. Bryce Mitchell versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. Shara Magomedov's back on the card. Marc-Andre Barriault, bit of a layup for him. Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. This is a banger. And I know bangers. This is a banger. Okay? And this is a great fight night card. This is a fucking great pay-per-view for UFC 2025. And that's my problem. So let me steer towards that before I get lost talking about how amazing of a card this is. If you are not an oil prince from Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia, the UFC do not give a fuck about you anymore. That is an absolute fact. You're a fan of the sport. Anywhere in the world but Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia, tough shit, dude. You're getting dog shit! You're getting UFC Fight Night Tatsuro Taira versus Emir Albazi. That's what I got to look forward to on a Saturday after this event. After this card, UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi, we've got UFC Fight Night Apex, Taira versus Albazi coming up. I want to really harp on the differences in these cards. And then I'll talk about Pico getting the fucking Evloev fight. Either way, I made this video a long time ago. If you search the words oil money on my YouTube account, you'll see it. It's called Has the UFC Sold Out to Oil Money? And I talked about them letting fighters cheat in Abu Dhabi, which is true. The officiating in Abu Dhabi is directly beneficial to people who believe what most people in Abu Dhabi believe. This is absolutely true when it came to how they officiated Shara Magomedov, how they officiated Naimov versus Wood. Countless fights, countless weigh-ins. I made a whole video about it, and I was talking about how Dana's now completely in he's completely holding hands, as you can see in the fucking profile picture of this video, or the thumbnail of this video. He's holding hands with Turki Al-Sheikh in this video, walking around with him at the little place that they're at, or some resort, or some like utopia in the middle of the fucking desert that they're wandering around in their sheets. And he's holding hands with Turki Al-Sheikh. They don't care about us anymore, and I'm going to show you why. Everyone called me names for making this video then, but I spoke about this a bit then. But now it's very, very obvious, and I think even the fans are starting to notice this. They announced this card for UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi on the same day that they announced this for UFC pay-per-view, UFC 319. We've got these fights that I'm going to go through today. Their post started with Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura. Now imagine that. This is UFC 319 in Chicago, America. UFC 319. This has Duplessis versus Chimaev as a main event. It's a great main event. I love it as a main event, an absolutely amazing main event. But seeing them announce this the best pay-per-view you have ever seen of the year so far type of card for a fight night in Abu Dhabi, while a pay-per-view has got the big announcement of Tim Elliott's return against Kai Asakura, it's disgusting. It is just disgusting to every other fan of the sport that doesn't live in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia. Think about all of the cards that they've gotten historically over the years. The massive matchups that we've had over there. Everything on the line matchups. You know, I think we had Usman Chimaev and Makhachev Volkanovski. I get it. Some of them are from that region now. Okay? Okay, they're from Russia. We can't fight in Russia. They're Muslim. Okay, put them on the Abu Dhabi card. In that way, I understand. Okay, maybe that's just their sort of safe hub for those guys to have a home field advantage without having a home field advantage because they're not from there. Okay? But Whittaker and Reina Derrida are not from there either. So we're just getting sick matchups put on these fight night cards. While, let me show you UFC 317. We've got Topuria Oliveira in the main event. Sick matchup. Amazing fight. But the rest of the card is bleak looking. Alejandro Pantoja Kai Kara France. Great fight. Benil Dariush and Artem Moicano. Good fight. Brandon Royval Joshua Van. Good fight. When I tell you how far this plummets after those 4 fights on this pay-per-view card, we are immediately at Jack Hermansson versus Gregory Rodriguez. It's a good fight. Probably make it to the prelims of an Abu Dhabi fight night card. Maybe. Who knows? That's on the prelims of this pay-per-view, though. Vivian Araújo, Tracy Cortez, Peyton Tabet, Felipe Lima, Jonathan Diniz, Justin Tafa. Do you notice anything? I'm scrolling. This is in a few weeks. I'm scrolling. They've added a few makeshift fights on short notice. They're feeding Nico Price to to Jacob Smith. So they're mix and matching a few short notice to try and make this look good while being a few weeks away. Over the past 2 days, they've announced about 3 bottom feeder fights. I think they've got McKinney versus Borshev on 318 as well, which we're going to go through, which isn't represented on this page. But think about that. This International Fight Week card is 3 weeks away. Maybe 2.5 weeks away. This is on June the 29th. This is in less than 2 weeks. This is the card. Prelims 2, early prelims 2. And over the past few days, they've mixed and matched a bunch of unranked people against each other to fill up the rest of this card. This is International Fight Week pay-per-view. And it isn't fucking done until 2 weeks before the fucking event started. But Abu Dhabi Fight Night card, that's done. That's ready. We got time to sort that out. But no, Yan versus McGhee just needed to be the feature fight of that card. We couldn't have done with that on UFC 318, which I'm going to show you now. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier is in the main event. It's a silly fight, but it's good. I'm a fan of the sport. I'm going to love watching Holloway versus Poirier. I get it. Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen's the co-main event. By the way, Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov just got added to this card. I need to mention that as well. Look how quickly this becomes Neil Magny versus fucking Gunnar Nelson. Think about that. Before Paulo Costa and Roman Kopylov's fight fell through and they got moved to this card instead, this card, UFC 318, was Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen, and then Neil Magny versus Gunnar Nelson, Adam Fugit versus Islam Dulatov, Ikram Aliskerov versus Bruno Ferreira, Jimmy Crute, Marcin Prachnio. This is a great fight. Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira. This is a banger. And I know bangers. I don't know. I just watched that before the video started. But I know bangers. And this is a banger. Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira. But what else is on this card? This is a pay-per-view. Look how weak it is. We barely have enough fights. And they put Paulo Costa, Roman Kopylov on there. I don't think that's a fucking main card. Where are the ranked guys? There are 2 ranked opponents as of right now on this card, other than Kyler Phillips. There are 6 ranked opponents. We have 15 per division. There are 8 male divisions. That means there are 120 ranked male fighters, not including champions, on the roster. 120. There are 11 pay-per-views this month. If there's 12 pay-per-views this month, that means we have 10 per pay-per-view. Why are we getting 3 of them on one card and 3 of them and maybe another on another card? Where the fuck is everyone? I've lost point of the video because I'm this angry about this. It's rank. It's fucking rank to watch, man. This is not a pay-per-view card. And let me tell you this. This is in Louisiana. You know who would have been a great fit for a Louisiana card? Bryce Mitchell. Sorry, guys. Bryce Mitchell's booked up in Abu Dhabi. You know who would have been a great fit for Louisiana? Bryce Mitchell. Oh, well. Whoops. Whoopsie daisy. No pay-per-view could have done with Whittaker versus Derrida, by the way, right? I mean, you just look at these pay-per-views and you don't think that could be really nice with a Whittaker versus Derrida in the feature fight. Or even a Bryce Mitchell versus someone on the main card. Nah, this one's done. Wrap it up. 2 weeks out. They're still salvaging some prelim fights. That one's done. International Fight Week, we'll deal with that 2 weeks out and put the rest of the fights on there because we still haven't updated our schedule on our website. And we barely added Peyton Tabit about fucking 5 days ago to the card as well. So it was even weaker about a week from now. Before. UFC 318. This just couldn't have done with any level of Peter Yan versus Marcus McGhee. That's your fucking feature fight for a fight night card in Abu Dhabi. We couldn't have done with that on this pay-per-view. No, make way for Adam Fujit versus Islam Dulatov on the main fucking card. Or Neil Magny versus Gunnar Nelson. We just didn't need Peter Yan on a pay-per-view. We could do without it. Then you look at UFC 319, and I was talking about this a second ago. The announcements that they made for UFC 319. I'm so angry. I'm sweating up a storm. It's so hot in the UK now. This guy, CT Society, says, cool now, add some good fights for us. This is their way, and read the caption here. Chicago, this is going to be an epic night of fights. UFC 319. So they've announced UFC Abu Dhabi, which is the best thing I've ever seen for a fight night card. Pico's fighting Evloev, whatever. Then they bring out this and say, don't worry, Chicago, we haven't forgotten about you guys. After just announcing Whittaker Derrida, Evloev Pico, Yan versus McGhee, Mitchell versus Nurmagomedov. Shara Magomedov's back, Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. After just announcing all of that for a fight night card, they go, don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you, Chicago, UFC 319. We got Tim Elliott's big return. Brian Battle versus Nasultan Ruzaboev. These are good fights. But to announce this as like, don't worry, this pay-per-view's covered. Look how quickly that became a Jessica Andrade fight. But you won't put Andrade over in Abu Dhabi. We're not having them watching Rose Namajunas versus fucking Miranda Maverick in a co-main event in a crowded arena. Wouldn't do that in UFC Fight Night Saudi Arabia. All good though. We'll sit through it. Don't worry, Chicago. We got you guys covered. Don't worry, you thought we forgot about you because we were announcing the great UFC Abu Dhabi card. But don't think we forgot. You guys got some matchups as well. And the annoying part is, they're good fights. They're so misplaced and misordered. Like, I feel like the UFC, they just put Kevin Vallejos in the fucking apex. Let me just say that. You know Kevin Vallejos, one of the most touted prospects in the sport right now. We're all hyped for Kevin Vallejos. He's in the fucking apex. He is in the apex in his next fight. Fucking disgusting. Because we have to make way for JJ Aldridge to be live in front of a crowd of people. But Kevin Vallejos, no. On a pay-per-view, getting compared to Ilia Topuria since his debut. Nah, don't put him on the Topuria card. That'd make too much sense promotion-wise. It's disgusting. Don't worry, Chicago, we got you. And then you know what? They put all these matchups first. Actual sneaky good ones coming up behind it as well. They vote them at the back of the list. Bobby Green versus Diego Ferreira. It's good. Is it save a main card of a pay-per-view worthy? These are all fun matchups. But these are better sprinkled around on different Apex Fight Night cards and Fight Night cards in general to give them a bit of life. You give me Bobby Green versus Carlos Diego Ferreira as a feature fight or a co-main event of an Apex card. I'm in Dreamland. I'm in Peaches and Creamville. Okay? If they put that on a co-main event of an Apex card. You put it somewhere lost on the prelims of a pay-per-view or on the main card of a shit pay-per-view, I all of a sudden lose all sense of value to it. Chase Hooper versus Alexander Hernandez. That's a nice fucking Apex Fight Night feature fight. That would make that card look strong. But you just... Is it so much to ask for ranked matchups on a main card of a pay-per-view? And you know why I'm annoyed by this? It's because the last few pay-per-views have been really shit. And I don't care how well they fought on the card Dana White after the fact. Because that's what Dana White does. Everybody says the pay-per-view looks weak. Couple KOs happen. A scrap might happen on a card if we're lucky. And Dana White sat up there, that fucking bald fuck, stood up there at the press conference or sat up there at the press conference and goes, that's why you don't judge the events before they happen. It's not about the fucking fights, man. That's after. It's about the build-up. It's about the hype. It's about the adrenaline. Am I feeling butterflies in my stomach when the fucking prelim headliner starts of Yuri Prohaska versus Alexander Rakic? That was not that long ago when we used to have pay-per-views that stacked. I think that was UFC 300, so that might have been a one-off. But still, am I feeling butterflies in my stomach once the prelims kick in? Because it feels like on these cards, and it felt like this for Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman card, it felt like I didn't give a shit until the main event. I watched Wellmakers fight on the prelims, and the rest of them just had a fucking sparring session, and there was nothing on the line in any of their matchups, and there was no turmoil, there was no hype, there was no nothing for any of those matchups until the main event of Usman versus Buckley. As a European MMA fan, I'm done waiting until 5 a.m. to get something of interest on a fucking card. They had a chance, knowing that this was Topuria versus Oliveira, they had a chance to make this a really blockbuster card. And this is the best that they could come up with. Just chuck a fucking flyweight title fight on there. Do it. Who cares? Let Pantoja Kara-France headline UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. And give us Whittaker versus Derrida. You know? Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano is nice. Brandon Royval, Joshua Van, these are good fights. But for UFC 317 International Fight Week, for it to plummet after those four that quickly, and this is all we've got. The payoff for the shitty pay-per-views of the past few months was supposed to be blockbuster stacked pay-per-views now. I made a whole video talking about what matchups they should put on, what fights should be on, and I was being very nice. I wasn't asking of too much of them, you know? I was putting on fun matchups. I was doing like, let's do Nate Landwehr versus Kevin Vallejos on the prelims. That's a sick fight. But no, we get Nate Landwehr versus Morgan Charriere needs that Nate Landwehr fight. Kevin Vallejos can fight some random on the fucking Apex main card that no one's going to give a shit about. Annoying, man. What's this? UFC Fight Night Delidzi Hernandez. This is the event. But let me find this. This is the event. And this card. But look at this card. Look at this pay-per-view card. Duplessis Chimaev. Banger. Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page. Banger. Great fight. Look how quickly this becomes Gerald Meerschaert versus Mikhail Alexeychuk. This is a pay-per-view. Edson Barboza versus Drakkar Klose. You know how quickly this descends into an absolute mid-fight card after a great start? There's nothing else. Look at this. That's another 2 ranked opponents. Where are the ranked guys in the UFC? There are 15 per division. I'm losing my mind. We got Holloway Poirier, Vettori versus Allen, and that's fucking it on the UFC 318 pay-per-view. Well, we've only got 2 ranked guys on this card. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch on the next pay-per-view of UFC 319. There's fucking 3. There's literally 3 ranked opponents on the next fucking pay-per-view. Let me go to events real quick anyway. Where's the fucking card after the UFC? Let me really hit home how little they give a shit about you lot. Okay? And how little they give a shit about us. We are suffering from this. I'm one of you guys. Whittaker versus Derrida is the fight night in Abu Dhabi. Stacked, amazing, yeah? Let's just click on it and just have a little gloss over one more time. Wow, amazing, wow, amazing. They've even got Asu Almabayev versus Ramazan Temirov. That must be on the fucking prelims. Are there prelims? Are there stacked prelims I just don't know about here? When it comes to this card? Let me fucking find out. There better not be better prelims than some of these other main card fights. I'm never accepting that, by the way. Real ones, no. Amanda Ribas-Tapavarici, that's better than some of the women's fights on the other pay-per-view. They've got Asu Almabayev versus Ramazan Temirov. That's a sick fight. And that's on the prelims of this card. Huh. But I want to show you guys the card that we're coming back to after the Abu Dhabi event. So Abu Dhabi's right here. Stacked card, fight night card. Albazi versus Taylor is what we're coming back to. Feast your eyes, guys. They don't care about you anymore. They're done trying. Just in case you were wondering for a second, well, all the ranked opponents must be booked elsewhere. They're not on all the pay-per-views. They must be doing something else. They must be on all the fight night cards in the US. Nope. Nope. Amir Albazi, Tatsuro Taira main event. This is our fight night. This is their fight night. I've lost it. This is their fight night card in Abu Dhabi. Look at that. And it's got more fights on the prelims that are good. That's their fight night card. This is yours. Amir Albazi versus Tatsuro Taira. Carol Rosa versus Nora Canal. That's it. That's what they're expecting you to watch. And by the way, guess when this is? It's in 6 weeks. No time to announce anything else for it. It's in 6 weeks. Enjoy it. Amir Albazi versus Tatsuro Taira. It's in 6 weeks. Carol Rosa versus Nora Canal co-main event. Unranked Nick Klein versus Andrei Pulyaev feature fight of the card. Rodolfo Vieira versus Tresean Gore. Andre Lima, Felipe Boons. They've got Bakoev versus Torres Fini. That's a good fight. You know what? I'm tuning in. And this is the problem. That's all it takes to rope me back in. You know what? These cards aren't bad. That's actually our problem. The Oil Princes made the UFC move an entire event because they weren't happy with the standard of the card. I don't remember what event this was. I think it was a Saudi Arabia fight night card. And they made them move the entire event because they weren't happy with the standard of it. So they delayed the entire event to later until the UFC gave them a better card. I remember there was panic when it was supposed to be Whittaker versus, I think, Chimaev, and Ikram Aliskerov ended up stepping in on short notice. And they had to save that event, and they gave Ikram Aliskerov the main fight against Robert Whittaker, who ended up beating him. And they still weren't happy about that event. This is what we get. And just in case you thought, oh, well, that's just a dead week. Wait until the weekend afterwards. That'll be a blockbuster one. This is the weekend afterwards. Good fights. But man, I wish I was in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia. That's how I feel as a fan of the sport. I don't know if anyone feels the same. I mean, look at this. UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Teixeira. That's the main event in Nashville. This is a crowded event. Keita versus Steve Garcia is a good fight. It's not looking anything like UFC Abu Dhabi. Stephen Thompson, Gabriel Bonfirm. It's just even the matchups that are made. It's like, why? Why are you doing Wonderboy versus Gabriel Bonfirm right now? You know? Some of them are just weirdly made. They don't make any sense to me at all. But, you know, this is actually a pretty decent looking card. I just thought I'd mention, like, the fucking pay-per-views are weaker than the fight nights in Abu Dhabi. We have a complete problem with the priority of our sport right now. Pay-per-views are being sold on main events. That's boxing. UFC 317 is entirely sold by Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. That's a boxing pay-per-view right there. UFC 318 is entirely sold. And now I'm on the UFC Instagram page. Look at his fucking smug fat face as well. You know what? In this fucking bullshit, by the way, look at all that. Hey, Dana, look at the rest of this fucking world in the background that you're looking at. Your big fat head is covering up Abu Dhabi, so we can't see it. Unless I'm wrong. No, it isn't covering up Abu Dhabi. It's right there. I'm just angry at Dana. Said Nurmagomedov was called Khabib Nurmagomedov's cousin. He's not. He is. They're all... Well, you know what? They're all cousins. This guy said Said's not Khabib's cousin. He's from Dagestan. They're cousins. Okay, that's how it works. This card is entirely sold by Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. It's a boxing pay-per-view card. This one's entirely sold by Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. It's a boxing pay-per-view card. UFC 319. None of this is selling it. None of this is selling the card. Hate to break it to you. None of this is selling it. It's entirely sold by Duplessis Chimaev. Because there's no other ranked guys. If September to December... Oh, no, wait. We don't have a pay-per-view in September. I forgot. If October, November, December aren't the greatest cards you have ever seen in UFC history, we march on the UFC PI. And I'm not joking. But I am playing a character just in case. See you later. Goodbye. I'm sick of it, man. I don't know how to end it. But yeah. Bye. I can hear the birds chirping again. Like, dude, there's no happiness in my life. And the UFC is making me angry as well. This is why I haven't been fucking posting videos recently. I go to this one thing for happiness. And it's not there anymore. And it feels intentionally not there. I'd go into some whole conspiracy thing about how this is the last place where the boys can enjoy something. And all of a sudden, so-and-so owns it. And now it's being fucking ruined from within. But I'm not going to go into all that. See you later. Goodbye. Fuck this whole fucking sport.